Hi, this is Dana, and on this channel I speak about spiritual warfare. I have one more channel on which I speak about astrology and my Facebook account with prophetic writings, which you find in the description box below. You guys, in this video, God has guided me to speak about transmutation. Basically, to me it was a bit confusing because I made a full video about transmutation and how you do transmutation. And so I said, it's going to be repetitive. But then God said, I need you to explain. God said, I need you to explain how you don't care. And essentially, He showed me that there are many people who allow for others to impose values for their style of living. Usually people that care too much or allow too much power to others to to dictate or to shape up the way they live. So he said, you are extremely successful throughout your life to preserve your essence. And nobody actually succeeded to penetrate your private space. And you're extremely successful in this. Of course, this got all messed up when I started the spiritual warfare, because then when you start opening up and engaging with these crazy bastards, this is why I did not allow them in my space, because I knew this. If you allow them in your private space, they will mess up everything. This is why I was very careful all my life. So, but since I had to start the spiritual warfare, I had to engage with many of them and to research much of it, so I would know how to respond and how to protect. So then, of course, it got a little bit messed up. And now, since I started prophetic writings, as particularly videos, God keeps forcing me to talk about my private space. That means opening it up even more. Anyhow, God wants me to share how I did this throughout lifetime. So because there are people now who start a spiritual fighting, and they don't have boundaries. They don't have actually God showed to me, because I asked him, I said, show to me what you want, so I will understand what exactly to say from my life. And God showed me that people are fighting, but because they let their life integrated in different types of communities which were not beneficial to them, they don't know how to create their private space. This is how I would describe what I've seen, because God usually shows me pictures of what is going on and what is wrong. So God showed me individuals who are fighting, and they cannot keep the focus because all of these crazy bastards who attack in spiritual world are just not allowing them to create the private space. This is how I would explain it. Anyhow, the point is, I will also give examples, because this is what God always pushes me to do. But the nutshell explanation of this, please, before anything, go to the video about transmutation, how you transmute. So you will see there the explanation from an energetic perspective, how you work with the energy. But what I'm explaining now, it's more of a mental thought process of how you build your privacy. Yeah, so you create your own world. For me, always, since a small child, I had my own world with me, God, Jesus, and divine realm. That was my world. It's something on soul level, mostly, but it was number one priority. That was my identity, which I always defended, protected, and from everybody else that I didn't think would understand, that I thought or I saw that would criticize, even parents, I would just simply just don't share with them this. Just like that, since they were criticizing all the time all this, and they were actually, this is the sad story, people criticize, and also they have the arrogance as to come and tell you What is this craziness you keep praying? My father would say, why you keep praying? This is craziness. This is not normal. Okay, fine. I will not tell you when I pray anymore if you do this. Because they come and dictate to you and they tell to you what it should be instead of just opening up. This is the specific to 3D. Everybody knows best. This is the mind programming, essentially. Everybody knows best. No, you shouldn't be an artist. I wanted to be an artist, when I was a teenager. My father, no, you should take a very serious job. You shouldn't be an artist. I was like, okay, fine. I will just keep for myself then my passions and what I like. If everybody dictates to you, but nobody actually opens up to actually get to know you. I believe now as an adult, looking back, that this is a tricky moment. If you accept what they do and say in your inner core, in your soul, then you tend to become what they want you to be. I never did that. Or, to be more precise, I had to do that to some extent because, I was the only one and they were surrounding me everywhere, even in my family and so on. But I would preserve my private space always. So I was like, fine, you want me to take a different job and you don't agree with my passions and what I want to do, then I will take a different job and I will preserve my passions and follow them to the extent possible in my own privacy, and I will not tell you about it. So you don't continue criticizing it and telling me not to do it and stuff. So you preserve. So I never budged, I never compromised what I felt in my soul that is important. This is also why from a very early age, I sought to have my own space, my own house, particularly because, of course, if you live with somebody else, then they will start making comments, imposing their views and stuff like this. It's more difficult to preserve your space. But even so, when I lived with my parents, still I could preserve my privacy, and even throughout my former marriage. So you create your own world, your own space, okay? And you keep your focus. You prioritize yourself and your relationship with the divine realm first. That's the first priority. And you do not allow others, you can observe if others are beneficial or not to this goal of yours, this world of yours, very early on. The problem is, I believe that if you allow them power over your personal space, then pretty soon you're not going to have boundaries. You're not going to know what is your space anymore. You're not going to know anymore what you want and who you are. I believe this, this is why I never allowed anyone in this space of mine. And keep it clear with strong boundaries. And I will give you an example. For example, when, still working to clear my throat chakra. The problem is that I clear it, and then they do attacks again, and that's the thing. Okay, so God said, explain how you do this. For example, in 2018, when the surprise attack came, right? That was actually when I couldn't keep the two boundaries in place, because the attack carried on and so on. And one of the attackers, whom I actually know who he is, he said to me at the end of the attack, okay, fine, you defended yourself and we couldn't do what we wanted. But keep in mind, you have to marry and be with a man from us. And I was like, what the fuck you mean? Who do you think you are to tell me what to do and who to be with? And he said to me, because we have rights over you. And I'm like, what the fuck you mean you have rights over me? I found this extremely insulting. Nobody on the face of the planet has rights over me. I'm a free individual and I'm an adult. Nobody has rights over me. And for example, even in 3D, nobody has rights over anyone. Even children who are not 18 yet, there's a limit to the rights a parent has over their child. if they break the normal societal rules and values of how you're allowed to behave towards a child, you lose your parental rights. They come and take the child. It is not so. You don't have rights over anyone. Nobody has rights over anyone. Anyhow, I asked God, I said, explain to me, what does this mean? What does this man mean? And God explained to me that they did this not fake, they made agreements among themselves in astral. Basically, the idea was that they enslaved everyone, right? And they made these convents, and in these convents, they agreed among themselves to harvest energy over others. And from this point forward, they divided population in turf, private turf, God says, private turf. So they agreed among themselves, and they all signed contracts among themselves, selling rights of harvesting over their own families, over their own children, over their own spouse. Like I explained to you in other videos how my ex-husband did, signing contracts over me. And they would allow the convent where they signed up to harvest energy over you. And God has shown me that there are different ways. For example, family members do this that are in convents and so on. Then there are institutions which do this. And in that particular case, God has shown me, when that individual said that you have to be with one of us, God has shown me those individuals were from a specific institution which I knew. And God said they signed agreements among themselves that their institution has harvesting rights over MFA where you work. I was like, no, the fuck you didn't. And I asked God, is this legal? Is this normal? I don't understand this craziness. And God said, no, it's not legal, but they made an agreement among themselves. So they actually considered that as having the power of law, but it's not legal. It's not law. Not in 3D, not in 5D, not in astral, not anywhere. It's legal to do this. But still, since they created it and they play by these rules and nobody else among population knows about it, they go ahead and do what they want. That's the problem. And then I got really, actually I felt really offended by this. I was like, who the fuck you think you are to claim that you have rights over me? I had no connection with that individual whatsoever. And for sure, no institution will have rights over me to harvest energy from me. And particularly since they do this in so many ways. They do it through contracts on your money. They do it at dream state. They do it with sexual attacks in nature. All happens during your dream state or through aggression. The gossip in itself, this is a strategy. You must understand, this is a strategy that they do all this slander in order to harvest energy from you, to steal your rights. Then through copycats and so on. There are so many strategies. And I was like, no, the fuck, this is not happening. And I told that guy, actually I told him immediately before I understood all of this. I said, what the fuck you mean you have rights over me? And he said, yeah, because you work at MFA and we work at CA, so we have rights over you. I'm like, so you mean to tell me because I work there you have rights over me? Get the fuck out of my life. And I said, just watch me. Just watch me, you creep. And next day I went and I resigned. I spoke with God. God explained to me that it's true and explained all of these. And I'm like, no, actually, no. I'm going to resign just now. I don't need anybody to have rights over me. You're not going to do this to me. And I would have resigned earlier if I knew. But I just didn't know up until then. And I told that individual, because I met him. He's a neighbor of mine. So I met him on the street the following days. And I stopped and looked into his eyes. So I told him, keep in mind, the wheel is turning. Just keep in mind, you'll see. And I left. But the point is, this is what I wanted to show. I definitely know for a fact I wouldn't have been able to carry on my spiritual fighting if I wouldn't have resigned. Because the institution, the agreements they have, and the institutional grip on you It's way too strong. God has shown to me later, and I wrote a lot of prophetic writings on this. God has shown to me that they do these agreements through your contract as employee of that institution. And there are hierarchy, and everybody on the hierarchy has rights to sell contracts on you. I'm like, what the fuck you mean? All these stupid creeps have rights to sign contracts on me? You must be fucking kidding me. This is not normal. What the fuck is this? Are we living in a slavery era? What is this? Actually, I wanted to resign immediately. And God said to me, no, you do not resign immediately. You go and make a note, which I did at the Human Resources department, because before you resign, we must make sure that those who are responsible for protecting you and should have actually never allowed for this to happen to you, which is happening to everybody else. Otherwise, the difference is you saw it. They don't see it. That's all. So they have a responsibility, and they should protect you and shouldn't allow these individuals to touch you, even during sleep time. Nobody is allowed to do this. And the reason why they get payment is for protecting you. But instead of protecting you, they themselves sign contracts. And they receive promotions, postings abroad in exchange for this. So they do this to you, colleagues of yours, your boss, everybody is doing, all that have power. God actually showed me that they are not promoted in position of power unless they agree to enter into these convents and to do these contracts on all the people who are working under their authority, institutional speaking, in their department. So it's a madness. So I was so disgusted, and God said, I need you to give time, because I need to judge over the people who have the responsibility to not allow this, because many of them are guilty for creating this. And God has shown to me, I need you to actually, Jesus talked to me more, because I was so mad. I just wanted to resign then. And Jesus said to me, you need to understand that if you give this time for us to go by astral rules, you will help all other individuals who didn't discover yet the truth which you discovered now. So I need you to just go by the rules of astral and make a note and make complaint. We need to go to judgment court. So you need to make formal complaint in astral court of law, because we need to use this opportunity of you finding out and being determined to fight in order to free other people, in order to help other people. The purpose is not for you to get out and be always under their threat, but the purpose is to achieve some success in terms of spiritual fighting. That means also freeing other people and destroying what they created. Okay, so I gave a few time. I said, okay, you tell me what I need to do and rush, because I want to resign fast. And Jesus told me, you must go to make formal complaint, and I did. Jesus showed me, you must go to the individual who was actually carrying out to the institution, for the individual who was carrying out the attack in your house. And I did. I mean, my father, when I told him that, my father, that I went to an Intel institution and I formally submitted a complaint about one of their employees launching an astral attack at me in my own house, my father went nuts. My father said, you must be crazy. How can you do this? This is not possible. And I'm like, yeah, of course. And I will do more than that. Just watch me. Just watch me now. Now that you all got me angry and I started war at everyone, just watch me. And I did that. I filed a complaint at one of the Intel institutions, because the one who was leading the attack was from that Intel institution. And I told them his name and another person's name. And I told them, it's your employee, it's your responsibility. Aside from the fact that your institution has the responsibility to protect other institutions, it's your own employee who is doing this, okay? So you stop him, you control him, He's out of control. He's just, you need to stop him. So I did everything that Jesus guided me to do. And then God allowed me to resign, because of course nobody protected me. The attacks started much worse after I did this, after I made the formal complaint and so on. So the point of that was not that Jesus thought that they will protect me, but the point of that, Jesus showed me, is that we go by the astral rules, so we will have a greater impact in our pursuit of justice and protection for you, and to take out those who are doing this. And I did all that. I was guided by Jesus. So it took 2 or 3 months for this to finalize. Initially, of course, everybody was outraged when they heard. They thought, oh my God, it's not possible. But they actually didn't do anything to protect me. And also, they blocked my attempts to get justice in a court of law and so on. Anyhow, my point is, what I want to show you is that when you have your private space that you want to protect, is then you cannot compromise over that. Because once you compromise, you're not gonna be able to have that space anymore, and then they take power over it. And that's the case with this example as well. If I wouldn't have made all of those demarches and resigned, I am pretty sure that I was not gonna be able to do all of this, because they claim authority over you and they speak in your name, and it's a horrible breaking of any norms and rules and justice. And anyhow, okay, so this is done. And then I wrote prophetic writings because I wanted everybody to know, because I was so offended and appalled of this. I was like, it's not possible that I have a very high expertise and I received offers from United States and from private companies in Romania and from so many places all my life to leave the MFA and to work for, and always I said, I had different concerns and different considerations why I kept working at the MFA. I was like, on one hand, I want my knowledge because I have a high level of knowledge and expertise. I want to help my country. What I thought it was my country, but everything was just programming and lies. And so I actually had a high level loyalty towards concepts like your country, your nation, your state, but then I learned that for them it was just a matter of organizing, like you have animals in a courtyard and you put them in confined places, so it'll be easy for you to manage them. It's exactly the same for them. All these institutions and all these affiliations, for them it's only for so they will be able to negotiate among themselves contracts on you, on how to harvest you, how to steal your rights, it's nothing less, nothing more. It's just a way of organizing slaves, so it will be more beneficial for them to sell contracts on them. That's all there is. And this explained a lot of the questions which I had about a lot of political leaders coming at the leadership of a public institution, but never wanting to actually make decisions which were related to his position. I was like, why don't they understand that they gotta make these decisions? We must make this project. We must make this alliance with even my PhD thesis. I focused on the lack of strategic vision and understanding among leadership and the impact it has on policy making and on the fabric of national identity as a nation and so on. Anyhow, when I learned about this, many things started to make sense to me now, since things which I was questioning for all my life. I was like, why they do this? And now it all made sense. They were part in a convent. They knew that they get that job only by selling contracts on you and harvesting energy from you and so on. And they didn't care for projects because they knew no project will get him a leadership position. But if he harvests energy on you, will give him a leadership position. And his only job was to maintain the crowd disciplined and in obedience. Anyhow, and if there's anybody smart enough to start understanding, to denigrate him and just uh, try to harvest energy from that individual in a different way. I experienced that as well by denigrating that individual, by aggressing that individual. That is called vampirizing. So you harvest energy by vampirizing. So you constantly create conflict against that individual. You actually put people to fight with them and so on for no reason. And I also always ask myself, why they do this? And this is why, because they vampirize, essentially harvesting energy in negative, abusive, aggressive manner. That's one way to vampirize. Then you can have the other way, which is owning it, but that would take a little bit more knowledge on their side. Okay, so this is one example which I think it's a little bit extreme. It's, of course, when we talk about resignation, it's just one, but it's very self-explanatory. You must make sure that you protect your privacy and your right to have a private life with God, because otherwise they will invade it. This is how 3D is created, right? So this is very important, that you preserve your space, and you preserve your at any cost, at any cost. And I said this. I actually wanted to resign long ago. All my life I didn't like this MFA job. I just went into it because my father made me, and also then preserved it because my ex-husband wanted the accolade, and he figured he will come up this way off of me. But I didn't really want this because I also, that's another story, and God is showing to me. Just talk about it briefly. Okay, so I'll show you how you do. Yeah, I understand now. Okay, so God wants me to show you how you preserve your essence and your private space when you are in this situation. Namely, I got hired in MFA because my father pushed me. I stayed in MFA because my ex-husband pushed me. I didn't want to stay there for a very simple reason. People seem very shallow to me, honestly. They were seeking shallow fame. Nobody was interested in talking about a project, in achieving something, in creating something. Everybody was just interested in positions. Everybody wanted to be an ambassador, And I'm like, why everybody wants to be an ambassador? I think it's not really so appealing in many situations. There are just a few situations in which you actually do something interesting, but most of the time you completely depend on political spectrum, and you kiss ass continuously. More than 2/3 of your life you spend in receptions, either attending other people's receptions or hosting your own receptions, which basically means you meet thousands and thousands and thousands of people who don't care about you. You don't care about them. Most of you gossip about each other. You're just pretending you have conduit of a code of conduct, and you have a specific protocol which is very rigid and very it has to be observed in terms of how you behave with each other at these receptions, what it's supposed to be done, what not, and so on. So it's elegant space, let's say, but it's very rotten. It's a shallow elegance, because you have a very nice norms of protocol, and you behave nicely to each other, and that actually I liked. I appreciated that very much, and this was part of one of the reasons why I actually stayed sometimes in that environment, because I was like, I'm not gonna go in a different environment where people are rude, because I don't appreciate that. Anyhow, they will behave politely and elegantly, but then it was all a facade. Everything was shallow, because in essence they were rude people who only learned some norms to be elegant, but actually at their essence they were rude people, and they were gossiping about each other. They were lying. They were denigrating constantly the others. There was a let's call it unfair competition, God says. It's unfair competition, namely that they were just denigrating others so they will steal their place. And they were kissing us in order to get appointed abroad in a position that they would like. And I found this disgusting. And I actually never socialized with people who do this. I always kept them at the distance. Just kept them at the distance. And God says, explain how. Well, simply be indifferent and ignore them. Like that. Just ignore them. I have an ability to ignore like you cannot imagine. You would think that actually I didn't even understand that that person is in the same room with me. You would think that I'm either blind or deaf. But it's not that I don't see that person. I just don't want to talk to them. That's all. And I don't want to talk to them because they bring negativity in my life. And I don't need to, of course, I did not push this to the point of rudeness. But I pursued this approach to maximum extent possible, up to the border of being rude. I honestly did. And I would just ignore them. Just ignore them. And avoid them. Actually, when I could, I was in leadership position of groups because I wanted to do projects. I liked to do projects. I couldn't sit on myself and do nothing. I was just getting so bored, going crazy bored. And so I had to lead different teams since I was very young. And I was very careful in choosing the people that I worked with. Of course, sometimes I just couldn't. I had to accept some others which were not beneficial. But I was very careful in choosing people. And namely, I had a very clear rule with everybody who ever worked with me, everybody that was ever selected by me or just I was asked to accept that person in my team. And I will tell them, while we work on the project, don't ever come to me. The point was keep the focus on the project. I need you to do everything for the project in terms of working. That usually meant extensive work, long hours, much longer than we were required by our contract, you know. And I promise you, the deal I always made was like, you make everything possible for what we have to do together, okay? And I promise to you, when we establish a limit of time of our cooperation, because either when the project is over or because simply when you work this intense, you cannot be constantly all your life being this. There's got to be an end to it. It's a limit of your human, ability. I mean, your strength, your power. And people have families, have children, have other things to do, not just a job, right? So every time I would make a clear discussion and deal with them, you give it all you have. You don't come to me to complain about your colleague, even if you're right. You don't come to me to gossip. You don't fight among yourselves. If you have a specific request related to something related to work, you explain it clearly, but we don't enter into fights. You don't challenge my decisions. You do what I tell you when I tell you, because many times if you do it later, it's not useful anymore. You do it then. You don't challenge it. If you really think that there's a wrong decision, at the end of the day, not during the day when we have so many things to do, at the end of the day, you come to me and we grab a beer and we discuss about it, and you tell me what is your concern, what is your problem, and I promise you, you tell me any problems that you have and any desires that you have. At the end of this time when you work with me, you will receive whatever we agree on as reward for this. So usually it was related to a posting abroad. So whatever posting abroad you want, whatever you need for your spouse to work, for your child to have this, for whatever, you make me a list. And I promise you, I not only convince the minister, but I go to prime minister, president, and anyone else on the face of the planet for you, and I will make it happen exactly the way that I promised to you. But the condition was, so it was a specific type of negotiation that I always did with all the members of my teams. Not everybody actually observed what they promised initially, and then of course conflicts start. But usually my point was very simple. You don't waste my energy, your energy, or your colleagues' energy bringing negativity in my circle. Okay, you don't gossip about them, you don't annoy them, you don't behave rude to them, you don't you don't undermine the project. This is a deal we made, you focus on it. Even if your colleague is not doing something right, we can talk about it, but not while we are working, so you can so you would impact on the efficiency of what we have to deliver. In the spare time, in the evening after we finish work, or at the end of the project, even better, we discuss about it, and I try to adapt if I had situations in which people signed up to do something and literally they just couldn't. They literally didn't have abilities. I give you an example. In my team, I had, for example, recruited some students, and one of them, I promoted her to be personal ambassador to the minister, among which was one of the responsibilities was to make sure that the minister speaks to certain people certain times about certain topics, right? Well, she was freezing. She drove me crazy because I tried to help that young lady, and she was just a student. I hired her in MFA. That's a big deal to be just a student, and somebody picks and chooses you and brings you in a totally different environment with an opportunity to actually get a job by contract in MFA. There are people who actually don't get in MFA all their lives, and many of them are better qualified than you. So it's a huge service and hand that I gave you. And she was just freezing. When she was hearing the minister's voice, she was just freezing. She wouldn't even say hello to him. Of course, the minister would get angry. And I took her at the end of the day. I tried for a few weeks with her, and I said, okay, you need to be honest with me and explain to me why you're doing this. What is going on? Are you too emotional? Is this not a good profile for you as a job? Maybe you need to be in an office where you have to do research and paperwork, and you're not good at interacting with other people. Maybe you have a problem with the minister. Maybe you have a crush on the minister. Who the fuck knows what is wrong? But I need you to explain to me what is wrong, so we can find the proper place for you, because we cannot afford this. The minister got angry at me today because of you, because every time when you picked up the phone, you wouldn't speak to him, and he doesn't know what's going on. And because of that, he missed the opportunity to make four very important phone calls abroad, because he went into the next meeting. And you don't answer to me when I keep asking you, Cora, what is wrong? Why you're not making the connections? What's going on? And you just look at me and you don't say anything. What the fuck is this? So we had this discussion for a few weeks. Unfortunately, she was not honest enough. I just give you this example. And she was always saying, no, it's okay, I will do better this next time. And I'm like, yeah, but can you? Is there something is there something in the office? Did somebody say something to you? Explain to me why you have this blockage, why you cannot function. Because this is very basic. Just to open your mouth and speak to him, it's very basic. If you cannot do this, then clearly you cannot work directly with the minister. Although among the students I recruited, I specifically recruited her to work with the minister because I thought she was good for the job. I thought, to me, it seemed like she is good for that position. But clearly she was not, at least not in that phase. Anyhow, we had many discussions in the evening, and I told her after 2 weeks of doing this, I said, you need to choose a different position and move, because otherwise the minister is going to fire all of us. Something is wrong. You don't want to talk to me to tell me what is wrong, and explain to me why the fuck you cannot speak to this man. What is wrong with you? What is happening between you and him that you cannot speak to him? Is there some blockage? Do you know him from somewhere? Did he say something to you? There was no explanation. Anyhow, this is my point. So I usually keep, even in my working environment, I keep a very clear space, okay? And I do not make compromises, and I do not allow negativity to enter. And if you do this, because I had many individuals in the groups I led who didn't respect this, and they would start gossiping, they would start blaming others for things they didn't do. Of course, as in any workplace, I would replace them. I would simply replace them. I would just pull them aside a few times, like I did with that young woman. I tell them, this is the problem, explain to me. How can we make this work? How can you fulfill your promise which you made to me when we started this deal together? And if not, then I warn you from now that we give it a try for 1 or 2 more weeks. Otherwise, you must leave the team. And leaving the team, that means you choose what you want to do next, and I will help you get in that position. But you will not be in my team because you're not beneficial to the team, or the team is not beneficial to you. Something is wrong. The point is, I'm not willing to compromise my project and my goals. I am not doing harm to you, and I don't always have time to research everybody's life to understand what is wrong with everybody. But you're not going to impact my goals. You're not going to impact and alter the rules which I imposed for the group and which we negotiated and we agreed on. But you're not following our agreement, so then you must leave the group. I'm not saying this with grudges to anyone. I'm not taking revenge on anyone. I'm not following anyone I never actually take time to go to follow that person to see where that person worked and and give them bad recommendations. I never gave bad recommendations to any of them from those people whom I pushed outside of my teams, because I figured maybe this was a lesson and that individual understands to change the behavior, and when you make a deal, you follow through with the deal. And on the other hand, I knew that the rules that applied in my projects and in my team were not the same everywhere. There are many ways, many places in MFA where you could do whatever because everybody else around you was very negative, doing gossip, slander, and blaming others and doing nothing all day long. So if you want to be this kind of person, there are places in MFA where you can go and sit very well and integrate yourself with the others who are doing just the same. So I didn't feel like I need to follow those individuals and give bad recommendations and stuff like this. Quite the opposite. If any of their bosses asked me, I avoided to give clear explanations of about themselves. I would usually give an honest evaluation of their abilities. I would say, I think this person is good for this, this and that. But I wouldn't explain exactly what happened unless it was something really bad that they have done. Okay, so this is how you preserve. You just become unpopular. I guess this is the explanation. You just prioritize your number one priority. My number one priority was my project, because this was the only reason why this was my only fulfillment in MFA. The projects I created, not positions, not individuals that I worked with, not postings abroad, nothing. The projects that I worked in. So that was my number one priority. So I had these clear rules, namely, as I explained, you don't bring negativity, you don't create all of this negativity in my teams, because you're draining from energy the entire team. You're draining me from energy. You're drawing my attention from working and planning on my project into stupid fights with other colleagues. And again, it's not like I wouldn't address those. I understand we're humans and we need to talk about these things. But you don't talk to me while I'm in the middle of the day receiving guests from a different country and I am busy working on that. You don't drain my energy with your stupid shit. Normally, everybody should be mature enough to deal with their own shit and deliver the job. Now, I understand that some are not, and we need to talk about it. Okay, I'm willing to do that. But we have specific time when we can talk about it, when the day is over, and you don't impact on my other tasks at the day. And you don't waste your own time having personal discussions about your problems during the time when we should be delivering things. And of course, we can talk about it either at the end of the day or at the end of the project. I had also good examples, but anyhow, the point is, and this is already long video, God has guided me to, okay, so, and He's guiding me to give one more example. So there was one experience which actually helped me. There are many experiences, but one in particular which helped me determine my strategy of, because I didn't like the environment in MFA. As I said, people were shallow, people were gossiping and slandering the names of others, and I was shocked. I was very young. I was 18 when I got hired, and I was still a student in parallel with my job, and I would see people who would come at me and slander the name of other individuals who were their own best friends. I was in shock. I'm like, how the fuck this goes? That woman is your best friend, and you come at me and you slander her name. And I was in shock. I was looking at that, my colleague, at that woman, and I was like, but how do you know this is true? Because she was trying to gossip with me. I was not good at gossiping, and she was like, her friend, this woman, slept with her boss in order to get that job. And I was shocked to hear that. I was like, but how do you know this? How do you know it's true? Did she say this to you? But she's your friend. If you say this, I was thinking to myself, if you say this about your best friend, what you're going to say about me when I'm not here? I was in shock. I cannot explain. People are very shallow, and they follow shallow fame. They only want positions for the shallow fame, simply like this. And one of the things which bothered me deeply was that there's a lot of sort of, this is how I perceived it. Men are very womanizer, and a lot of women were so a lack of morality, you know, and this shocked me. This truly shocked me, as I was very young and I didn't imagine this is possible. There are too many men who actually were making advances at me, were hitting on me, you know, and they were married men, and for me that was the shock. And I was like, oh my God, this cannot be happening. I cannot be living. And initially I tried to tell some people, and there was, I remember, an older gentleman, I was very young then, and an older gentleman, you know, asked me one day, you know, how you like working with your boss? And I started saying, I said, I don't like it because that individual was hitting on me, you know, and I was terrified. Actually, I was in that phase that I couldn't enter into my office. I always asked another colleague from a different department to stay with me because I was afraid to stay alone in the office, you know, so that was a terrifying period for me. And when this old gentleman asked me if I like working with that boss, I hoped somebody will help me, you know, to get out of there. Everybody, you know, the people that I talked to about this, they said, don't tell anyone because this is gonna create a bad reputation for you. When this man asked me if I like working with that individual, I actually said to him, I said, I don't like this gentleman, you know, and to be very honest, he's been hitting on me. And basically I was hoping that he's going to help me out of that situation. I just wanted to move, not to meet that individual anymore, and not to be afraid to enter my office. And that individual said to me, never do this in MFA. Never be honest. Never tell the truth to anyone in MFA. Because I'll give you an example. The boss that you talk about, I was only polite asking you if you like working with him. But we were colleagues throughout our youth. We were students. We shared the same bedroom in students' year. So I know him very, very well. So you run the risk in this institution. You never know who knows who, and you run the risk that that individual will go and tell him what you said, and this will be not beneficial to you. I was in shock. I was in shock. You know, I hoped that he was gonna say that's unacceptable, let me help you with this situation, but instead he actually told me not to tell anyone anymore, and that was a horrible experience. So from that, basically I draw the conclusion, you know, gotta keep them at a distance, you know, I gotta keep everyone at a distance, and I wanna I need to create my own space because I will not survive in this environment, you know. And I was talking to women, which I thought they might be friends of mine in that environment, but all of them found it very silly that I'm this much affected by this. And all of them were against me going, because I wanted to go to the human resources department to tell on him. And all of them said, no, don't do this. This is not, you must be, I don't remember how one of them said to me that you must be sophisticated about it. And I was not sophisticated enough. You shouldn't be talking about this, and you shouldn't be making formal complaints. You just behave like nothing happened, and you try to move to a different department or just go abroad. That's the point. Which of course I did. But then that helped me have a very clear conclusion about the environment that I live in. It was very clear to me that I cannot be honest to them, because they are not used to honesty, and they just gossip on each other, they just slander each other, and so on. So one of the experiences which God keeps showing me to say about this was that in this period of time, in those few years when I was still very young and trying to shape up a way for me to live in that environment, I had a colleague, desk colleague, who actually, she asked me to be her colleague. I didn't necessarily go to work there. And she was so, I didn't understand why, but she was so envious and jealous of me. I cannot explain to you. So she was making a huge scandal every day, every single day. We had the same position in the office. So she had no authority higher than me, to be very clear. But she, all the time she was saying, you'd go do this, you know. And I put it on the account that I'm younger, you know, and therefore she feels like she can boss me around. But she had no authority to do that, actually. Each of us was working directly with the boss, and only the boss could decide who does what in that office. And you can agree on splitting the workload among yourselves. But the problem was she was splitting the work. So in the morning she would come and she would say, no, I don't want you to answer the phone today. I want you to do this, the paper work, whatever. The problem was that she was annoyed when people would call and didn't want to talk to her, would ask for me. But they were asking for me because I was helping them. I was working. She, instead of working, she was gossiping with them. And she was wasting their time. So they were not appreciative, of course. So she was very jealous. She said, you don't answer the phone anymore, you know. And they said, okay. Well, you see, the entire time, you know, I think God was on her. The entire time when she said, you don't answer the phone, that phone, the damn phone, didn't ring anymore. She didn't have any calls to answer all day long. And everybody who entered the office asked to speak with me about some paperwork that I was doing, or about something that was discussed with me previous days, or something like this. She got really jealous again. And she was like, no, in the middle of the day, we switch. You go move at the phone, and now I will do the paperwork, you know. And I was, okay, fine. But I could see the suffering on her face, you know. And for me, it was so equal. I didn't fucking care what I'm doing. I don't like your MFA. I don't like you people. I don't like to be here. I just have to move on and live my life. What to do? I need to finish my university so I can actually open a business and have my own life without these crazy people around me. Anyhow, I didn't say this, but this is what I was thinking. So I moved, as she says, you know, and the phone started ringing. I swear to you, I believe deeply that God was onto that woman. And then nobody would come to the paperwork where she was. But it was her who wanted to split the work this way. It wasn't me. She asked how to split it. But I'm telling you, it's like God specifically wanted to punish her. And everything that she was giving me was so successful, and everybody was seeking to speak to me. And everything that she was choosing to do was not successful. Anyhow, I'm not going to enter into more details. This is each and every fucking single day of our cooperation. This is how she did. Continuously. She was driving me crazy because she was so jealous. She was so envious. Then she started complaining to me, why you spoke with that individual about this other paper? Because this is what he asked me about. Yeah, but that was a paper which I did 3 days ago. So then why didn't you explain to him if it was your paper? How would I know about, we do thousands of papers every day. How would I know from my head that that was a paper you have done? We had to look in the register for it. We had to check. It was crazy. I cannot explain to you. It was crazy. So that was a time when, for me, my strategy of how you preserve your private space crystallized. Because in working with that woman who did this to me for years, actually, I moved from there. And she followed me. She came after me. I'm telling you. It was so crazy. And because of that, I realized at a very young age, okay, that basically there are people who cannot be pleased. And the more time you give and the more you engage with them, they will drain you because they are deeply unhappy with anything. Doesn't matter. I had very deep conviction at that time that even if I breathe, this still annoys that woman, still is jealous on me for nothing, because we were just, secretaries in an office. I was already a student and I wanted to go and open my own business. Everybody knew this. So I was not even a competition for her because I was not planning to stay around more than my finishing my university, you know. But still there was so much jealousy and so much envy and so much plotting. She started then telling me, if you don't do this, I will go to our boss and tell him you said this. Lies. She was actually saying to my face that she will go lie to my boss about me. And I was like, I would not fucking be blackmailed like this and intimidated like this and bullied like this. Just get the fuck out of my life. So I basically said to her, this is what I said to me, to myself. And from that moment forward, I decided, I said, no, I will not fucking give a damn about you and what you say. And I will just mind my own business and create my own life. And I will move from here. I actually moved from there in that particular time. I actually left. I was assigned at Washington, D.C. abroad in a posting, and one of the main reason why I accepted it was to get away from this crazy woman who was annoying and destroying my energy and my peace every day. So that's the time when I decided, it was clear to me, there's nothing I can do to please this woman, because all the time I allowed her to say, to decide all of these things only so we would have peace in the office. All these things which were so important to her and she was so jealous for them didn't matter to me. I got, I think, 5 proposals for posting abroad that year. You see, I rejected all of them. I didn't want to go abroad. I wanted to build my business. And everybody knew this. My boss knew this. My husband knew this. My family knew this. I told everyone, I said I will stay in this job only to earn an income, but only until I finish my my school. And when I finish my school, I will open my business. And I will go away from these crazy lunatics of yours, because these are not healthy people. They are sick in their mind with what they do. And everybody knew that I'm going to leave. But she was so jealous and envious, all the time that I gave her the opportunity to decide how to split the job among us in the office, only hoping that I will get peace and quiet and I will get something to do peacefully and we can move on. No, it was not possible. It was not possible. I cannot explain to you how much negativity she brought into my life. I was crying every day. Every day when I got home, my first thing was to cry, to release all the stress and negativity she brought into my life. I couldn't see about my evening before I did that, so I was, that was actually the critical moment for me, when I determined and I decided I will shape up a profile for myself which will protect me from all these crazy lunatics. It is not normal that I waste this much energy, that I go home and cry every day, only to get out all of this negativity which is building up on me every day. So, and also I will not encounter or allow any individuals to uh, intimidate or scare me like that crazy boss who was hitting on me. And I did this. I created a profile in such a way that I pushed away all these people, all these kind of people, because there's degrees to negativity. You can be negative but still be acceptable as a presence in the same room, or you can be this kind of negative, which I gave you these two examples, where you destroy people with your negativity simply. Unfortunately, I encountered this very young, but it was a good lesson for me because I understood you cannot win with these people. There's nothing you can do. You even if you breathe, they will still find a reason to fight with you, to destroy your joy and your peace and so on. And this, I realized, this is only draining you from energy. So you need to cut this off. You need to cut this off, and you can cut it off by not allowing space, not allowing them into your space, or if they are in your space, you can adopt a behavior of ignoring them, being very cold to them, to keep them at a distance, so you can actually preserve your space. So I developed my own strategy to deal with it, basically. And I can tell you for sure that I succeeded up until the day I resigned from that institution to preserve my space and not allow this kind of people in my space again. So it's a conscious decision that you make. You prioritize what is important to you, your relationship with God, the goals you establish for yourself, the values that you want to live in. For me, for example, sitting there and listening to her gossiping about everyone, slandering their name, was very unpleasant. And it was draining me. It was creating, that was a very negative energy that she was bringing into the room, and she was projecting at me, even if I didn't participate in that, you know. And I found it, I was shocked every time. How can you say this about other people? How do you know? But how do you know it's true even? And so I found ways in which I didn't allow. And from that point forward, as I gave another example, another video, when somebody would come and try to gossip with me, I was like, yeah, just get the fuck away. I don't care. I don't want to hear it. This and that. I don't want to hear it. Leave. Just go. If you want to have a decent discussions about something positive, about a project, about something, okay. But if you just want to poison me with your negativity, get the fuck away from me. Just simple like this. I'm not going to follow you to slander your name like you do with mine or others. But I'm also not going to allow you to enter into my space to bring all this negative energy to me. So it's basically a matter of decision. And I know this is hard for people who actually want to be appreciated by others. It's not like I didn't want to be appreciated, but I prioritized. I was like, I want to be appreciated by the right people. I don't want to be appreciated by the wrong people who drag me into negativity. And they basically kill my joy and transform me in some sort of shallow person. And actually, throughout this time, I had a prayer to God. Every single freaking day of my life. During the prayer, I would say, just please don't let me be like them. Please don't let me be like them, because I really don't want to be this. I found it very ugly, I'll be honest now, very ugly kind of person to keep gossiping and slandering other people's name, doing harm, plotting on somebody not to get a position. I have seen many times this done to me or to others in that institution, where somebody was supposed to be promoted, even me, somebody was supposed to be promoted, and then one or two others will gang up and go to that boss to convince him not to promote him. And then they will come to you and they will smile to your face. I know people who smiled in my face, and they have done this. I know for a fact that they have done this. Even the individual to whom they went, he told me, this and this colleagues of yours came to me and they said not to give you. And I know it's true. So it's very ugly environment. So then I figured it's important for me just to preserve myself. That's most important, and my relationship with God. And I prayed to God, just please keep me sane, because people are crazy. Just keep me sane, and don't let me be like them. Just keep me the way I am. And yeah, this is how. It's mostly a decision making. You decide, and you don't compromise, because if you compromise, then you never. I mean, I would have never been able to actually do this to other people like they do. But that negativity will affect you and will drag you down one way or another. And you never know where they can drag you with them into this crazy world of theirs. Okay, so I'm going to stop here because it's over 1 hour. God has pointed to me all this time these examples. He really wanted to give these examples. I hope this helps other people. I know that it's one thing to have a hands-on experience, and it's another thing to listen to my voice giving these explanations. Clearly, I had to make a decision because, for example, that woman, colleague of mine, was simply draining me of the energy every single day of my life. So I realized that I cannot function like this, and I cannot achieve my goals like this if I have a boss who hits on me, and then this is paralyzing my energy, and I keep asking other people to be with me in the same room so I'll be safe because I didn't know what he wants to do next, and so on. And also with this woman who was abusing and aggressing me daily in a matter, and I was trying to keep a facade of a decent, because I thought, this is so crazy. Why would you do this to me? I'm not in competition with anyone. Anyhow, the point of the matter is that you have to prioritize, and it's a matter of decision making. It is a matter of decision making, and it is a matter of you caring more about yourself and your relationship with God than about these individuals. Really, this is what it boils down to. Not to compromise and keep your boundaries up. And I learned how to create a profile that will ensure this for me. And this is how I was always able to ignore them, just because I have given chances and experience throughout time, many times, this thing, namely that these are people with whom you cannot have a decent relation. It's simply like this. These are people who are harming everyone, who are doing harm to the other. The relationship with this woman evolved. She actually did go to my boss, because when she kept saying, I will go tell you, our boss, that you did this or you said this, which were not true, I actually said to her, yeah, okay, fine, go. That's when I decided, that's enough. That's enough of you doing this stuff to me. And I was like, yeah, go and tell him whatever you want. I don't care. And she did. She was in shock, because she went and told the boss whatever she wanted, which was a lie. And then she came out, she said, I told him. I said, fine. And I already sought another job in another department, because I was fed up with them, both with him and with her. I was like, this is crazy department. I don't want to be here anymore. And I started confronting her and putting her in her place. I then next day told her, listen, from today, you don't get to decide who does what in this office. I need to remind to you that we have exactly the same position. You're not the boss of me. I allowed you because I hoped you'll find peace and you'll give me peace if you decide who does what. But it seems like this is not so. Hence, from this day forward, I don't want to meet you anymore. We make shifts. I work alone, you work alone. You work a full day, I work the next day. So I changed everything. Like it or leave it. If you don't accept this, I'm leaving the department. That's enough of this bullshit that you have created against me. And she was, I will tell we shifted into this, and we started working full day, and next day wouldn't work, right? So one day with 1 day. So that meant that we never met. I changed because I couldn't live with her anymore. So I was like, okay, fine. If not, I'm leaving the department. And that's what I say. I learned to put my foot down and to impose conditions that will help me preserve my sanity, my energy, keep my focus, achieve my goals, and keep away from me as much as possible crazy lunatic people. And she continued to slander me even more and to go to my boss and say things about me. But I didn't care that much because she was not in my presence. She was not draining me. I had to deal, though, with the consequences of that. Because many people would come to me and would say, you know, the Ioana said this about you, Ioana said this about you. And it was very embarrassing situation because some of these people actually, they said, we are shocked because we know this is not true. But she's saying this about you to everyone. And I understood that this is a price I have to pay for the way I decided to deal with the situation and with that woman. But that was the only way that I could actually have a minimum of peace so I can actually focus on myself to preserve my energy, preserve my private space and move on in life. Because otherwise she was destroying each and every single day of my life. So yeah, there's a price to pay. I guess this is the lesson that you have to understand. There is always a very high price that you pay when you preserve your space and you don't compromise with them. But you will be very successful in preserving your essence, like God has just asked me to talk about. And I will stop now because it's over 1 hour. So we started by God asking me to talk about how you preserve your essence. And I just explained to you, this is the way you preserve your essence. Very strong boundaries and make peace with the fact that you will have a price to pay. You will not be as popular anymore. People will hate you for this because this woman, I have the deep conviction she had demons in her, and those demons were enraged when they couldn't feed on my energy anymore. So she went like crazy. But I tell you what, I left that place being posted abroad at Washington DC. She came after me. I'm telling you, she came to Washington after me. She kept calling me every day when I was in Washington. Literally, these people are crazy, are not normal in their head. And then in Washington, she started doing the same. She came, and I gave this example. She would come to me daily and tell me, this person said this about you, this person said this about you, this person. Oh my God, I'm like, oh, the fuck, I don't believe that you came again with all this shit to me. And then I had to put her in her place again. As I told in another video, when I told her and another woman, I said, I don't want to hear any of you again. None of you comes to me to tell me about the other one. I don't want to hear who says what about me. You're not allowed into my private space to destroy my peace again. So each and every single time. So they don't give up easily. This is what I want to point out. This is not easy to do. They don't give up easy. They will follow you. They will come after you. They will continue to do this. But I was very determined. I was very determined because by now I already had an example and I understood in my energy and in my efficiency what is the difference when she's around and when she's not around. I could see the difference and I was like, fuck no, we're not going back to that. You're not bringing again negativity in my life. Just keep away. You know? So there's a price you pay. That is a fact. God asked me to speak about another example as well, but there is no time because it's over 1 hour. He asked me to speak about when I moved here in the place where I live now, Chernica, was the same thing. Basically, I think I gave enough examples. This was supposed to be my private space. This was supposed to be my private space in my courtyard where my dog can run around and be free, where I can enjoy nature and I can have my private space. Unfortunately, quite the same. People around me, they felt like they have to interfere and intrude in my private space, which is not acceptable. And let me say something. I want to be very clear. I'm not a monk, or at least in my life, I have been in a job which presumed a lot of networking with a lot of people. You can come close to somebody, but you cannot impose yourself in their private space. And you have to do it delicately and just watch if they allow you to. Maybe that person needs to be alone. Leave him alone. Anyhow, I'm not going to enter into this. Maybe in another video because it's already over 1 hour. This is going to take forever to upload. But here was exactly the same story. Neighbors who were rude, were slandering, were denigrating, and they just wanted to dictate into my life. what to do. This woman, next door neighbor, who's called doppelganger of me, she actually, when she moved in as my next door neighbor, she was, you cannot imagine, she was sitting on the balcony and yelling at me in my own courtyard, telling me, don't feed your dog in the courtyard anymore. Feed him inside in the house. I'm like, who the fuck you think you are to tell me what to do in my courtyard or in my house, on my property? What do you mean don't feed him in the courtyard? Well, who the fuck you think you are? Why would you have a right to have an opinion of what I do in my courtyard? Or she was yelling from the balcony, don't put your trash bin over there, move it over there. Who the fuck you think you are to say this? So I was shocked here as well. I neighbors of mine around me, but then later on I understood they were here only in order to gang stalk me, basically. So at some point I understood this, but the other neighbor as well, why you have this kind of fence? But it's fucking not your business why I have this fence. This is the fence from the construction of the building. This is how the house was sold. Everybody in Cernica has the same fence. Nobody has a problem. Only you have a problem. And even if you have a problem and you don't like my fence, who the fuck you think you are to voice this opinion like this rudely and comment about what I have or don't have in my courtyard? Just mind the fuck your business in your own courtyard and leave me alone. Anyhow, I'm gonna stop here because God insisted on talking about Cernica. I did talk about Cernica as well. Here I think I found copies of that Ioana all over again since my youth. Exactly the same type of relationship, the same type of people who actually only seek to drain you. At this age, though, I learned that these are people who are paid to do this. These are people who do professional gang stalking. They're mercenaries who work for these intel institutions in order to create dents in your aura and attachments on your energy in order for them to harvest and to feed on you. Yeah, it's not by mistake. I'm much older now and I went through a lot and I learned a lot to understand that this is not by mistake, this is not by chance, this is not only the way they are by nature. This is something that they do in order to get money, to get promotion, to get, they have actually material advantages, they steal a house from you. They actually say this. God has shown to me about this crazy lunatic neighbor of mine. She went in and said, okay, I will do gang stalking and I will put this and this and this strings on her. I want her house. Another one, God has shown me, I want her position, her promotion position in MFA. I want this, I want that. They actually have a clear negotiation of what to receive from your rights. If you would see the images I have seen about them from God, I'm pretty sure that you will not allow them to do this anymore, and you will fight much more if you would hear what they say about you and so on. Okay, I'm gonna stop here at this point because it's a really long video. I will hear you in the next one.